I just want to, laugh about things every night, but it seems to be becoming increasingly difficult lately.
There's no denying that 2017 has been a tough year on many fronts, from the worst mass shooting in modern US history to ongoing healthcare debates to white nationalists, Ku Klux Klan members and Nazis marching on Charlottesville, Virginia, and numerous shocking sexual harassment allegations. The events of the year have been so weighty that the late-night hosts have often needed to spike their trademark senses of humor with anger, criticism and sorrow as they stepped up to the plate to tackle these issues. Here, we take a look back at the year late night got serious. Early in October, both the New York Times and the New Yorker released damning exposés on powerhouse producer Harvey Weinstein, who was accused of decades of alleged sexual misconduct towards numerous women. Weinstein proved to be just the beginning as the floodgates opened and scores of accusations came to light from women and men across the country against many high-profile names in media and politics. On CBS's The Late Show, host Stephen Colbert referred to Weinstein as human Shrek, called his actions indefensible, and said the allegations amounted to monstrous behavior that, in a just world, would not have been allowed to go on for decades. Referencing the fact that Weinstein's lawyer defended the mogul by calling him an old dinosaur learning new ways, Colbert retorted,
A, that's no excuse. B, dinosaurs did not touch themselves in front of the employees. The T-Rex's arms were way too short.
Meanwhile, NBC's Seth Meyers invited female members of his late-night writing staff to address the scandal and Weinstein's apology in their own segment.
He blamed disrespect of women on growing up in the 60s and 70s, which would be a good excuse if he came to the present via time machine.
Other reactions to Weinstein's apology went something like this.
He compared himself to Jay-Z?
Of course, before long, Late Night had plenty of other high-profile allegations to address, from Kevin Spacey to Matt Lauer, Charlie Rose, Senator Al Franken, Senate candidate Roy Moore. The list goes on. Spacey was accused by Star Trek Discovery actor Anthony Rapp of making a pass toward him when he was only 14. In response, Spacey tweeted his sincerest apology and came out as a gay man. Unsurprisingly, his statement was met with plenty of backlash. On Comedy Central's The Daily Show, host Trevor Noah took aim at Spacey, ridiculing his apology. Talk about the worst time to go public with your sexuality. I mean, it's always good to live your truth, but don't use it to get out of trouble, the host said.
Imagine if a cop pulled him over, he'd be like, "Sir, are you drunk? I need you to come out of the vehicle." He's like, "That's not the only thing I'm willing to come out of."
When it came to former CBS anchor Charlie Rose, Myers focused his Closer Look segment in part on Rose, comparing it to ABC's The Bachelor.
This whole situation is like a reverse Bachelor. Nobody wants to accept this Rose.
The host also took aim at the politicians and political candidates accused of sexual harassment and assault. ABC's Jimmy Kimmel found himself in a Twitter war with Roy Moore after sending a correspondent to one of Moore's rallies to mock his supporters.
When we sit down, I will share with you what I learned at my church. At my church, forcing yourself on underage girls is a no-no.
On October 1st, the deadliest mass shooting in modern US history occurred in Las Vegas when a gunman opened fire on an outdoor country music festival from the 32nd floor of the Mandalay Bay Hotel. The following night, hosts addressed the senseless violence on their programs. Kimmel, a Vegas native, opened his show on October 2nd with an emotional monologue in which he called out politicians and questioned why they continue to allow these deadly acts of violence to occur.
Common sense says you don't let those who suffer from mental illness buy guns.
Myers shared a similar sentiment on his program, saying, "It always seems like the worst displays of humanity in this country are immediately followed by the best, and then, sadly, that is followed by no action at all. And then it repeats itself."
Are there no steps we can take as a nation to prevent gun violence?
He then made a pointed statement to Congress.
Because when you say, now is not the time to talk about it, what you really mean is, there is never a time to talk about it.
On The Daily Show, host Trevor Noah also called for gun control and issued a heartbreaking apology. To the people of Las Vegas, "I can't give you thoughts and prayers," he said.
"I can only say that I'm sorry. I'm sorry that we live in a world where there are people who will put a gun before your lives."
On TBS, Conan O'Brien expressed his sadness over the terrible and numbing tragedy and noted how tragically times have changed since 1993 when, he said,
"For me or any TV comedy host back then to come out and need to address a mass shooting spree was practically unheard of."
Colbert also addressed the issue of gun control with a suggestion to President Donald Trump, saying,
You want to make America great again? Pass any kind of common sense gun control legislation.
On the weekend of August 12th and 13th, white supremacists, Ku Klux Klan members, Nazis and more marched on downtown Charlottesville, Virginia to protest the removal of a statue of Confederate leader Robert E. Lee. Opposing marchers arrived and violence ensued, resulting in the death of one woman, Heather Heyer. President Trump addressed the incident and claimed there was violence on many sides, prompting the late-night host to not only address the shameful incident, but Trump's comments as well on their shows that Monday night.
Many sides? Mr. President, this is terrorism, not your order at KFC.
Colbert said he'd seen angrier Yelp reviews than Trump's Saturday response and pointed out that it was especially disturbing because his comments immediately following the tragedy made it hard for reasonable people to discern if he was condemning Nazis or not. On NBC's Tonight Show, Jimmy Fallon noted that even though his program is not a political one, it was his responsibility to stand up against intolerance and extremism. He called the events in Charlottesville disgusting and said they made him feel sick to his stomach.
The fact that it took the president 2 days to come out and clearly denounce racists and white supremacists is shameful.
To read more and watch full segments from the year Late Night got serious, including Jimmy Kimmel taking on the healthcare debate in the wake of his son Billy's birth, and Conan and Colbert acting as ambassadors abroad, head to THR.com. For the Hollywood Reporter News, I'm Lindsay Rodriguez.